What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Aerodrome today. AERO at the request of Chris Cohen TV. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. The purpose of this video is essentially to address where I think the price action is going to be by the end of this week, over the coming days, right? By the end of the month of January, and then by the end of this move, which I expect to take place by the end of February, if not sometime in March. So if that all sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe. Let's go. Here we go. Sitting at about $1.35 right now, moving up 23% this week. AERO has had a bit of a setback, to say the least, since December, but that's okay, right? Not every coin is going to just move sideways. Not every coin is going to move up. Some coins do pull back, and just because this one pulled back probably more, I would think, than the average coin did, doesn't mean that it has any less potential to move up than the average coin does, right? It actually has a lot of potential, and in fact, that kind of a pullback right there at this low comes in right across with these lows, kind of in this area of resistance down here. Okay, I was hopeful that it was right at this area, but it's not. But it's okay, whatever. I mean, you did close your week right there, which is kind of at that area of resistance, and it's at this area of support. So there's multiple ways to look at it that it makes sense that that's support on a price action basis. We look at this on, and I want to make sure that's the all-time. I think that is the all-time history. We look at this on a weekly basis at the RSI. And we are at the same area, or at least we're bouncing at the same area that we bounced from last time, and even a little bounce right here, right? So optimistic on the weekly RSI. It definitely does look good. I want to look at the 3-day RSI. 3-day looks bullish, man. Bouncing out the 40 is a good look for sure. I think this thing looks like it wants to rip overall. You broke, the reason why Aerodrome probably had a harder time than most over this last drop is you broke this, well, that's not what I meant to draw. You broke this significant, to say the least, very significant kind of uptrend in your 3-day time frame, right? It's not the most perfect straight lines, but it is pretty parallel. That's a very perfect trend, and you broke out of it. But all you've done, all you've done with your trend is you've promoted now a downtrend, right, in your RSI. You've got a downtrend in your RSI, okay, with a little blemish here, but lower lows in the RSI, and all you have on your lows on the price is actually higher lows or flat lows. So that is a form of what they call hidden bullish divergence, and this is on a 3-day time frame. So think about this in terms of like weeks, probably multiple weeks for this to play out. But hidden bullish divergence, it tends to mean continuation of the trend, right? The trend is upwards. This is kind of a weird one for me, so I'm not going to say it's continuation in this sense, but it is bullish. So it would suggest that you pump and you move up higher, and you have been over the past 3 days. So 16%, 6.5% on this 3-day period. Let's keep looking and dissecting and see if we can find out where I think the price is going to be by the end of this week. And in fact, this is a 3-day period here. 1 day, 19 hours. What is it? Sunday would be that. So I mean, maybe by the end of this week, we're up at about $1.61. You're at $1.35 now. But you guys, crypto might really bust this, like, by the end of this week. We really might see some things. So if you're not at $1.60, $1.63, $1.65 by the end of this week, you're only going to be higher, would be my guess, right? If I'm wrong in that prediction, I don't think it'll be wrong like this or wrong like this. I think it's going to be wrong like that, right? Or I might be lethally accurate. I don't know. I've had a couple good calls recently, but good calls get tailored to bad calls sometimes too, or maybe not tailored, get accompanied by. That's what I was trying to say. All right, so looking at this relative high to low here, again, to identify where I think the price is going to be by the end of the week, that golden ratio looks right, man. $1.36 right now. You're at, I think, $1.60 to $1.72 is where you're going to go. Yeah, personally. Looking at the daily time frame here, breaking above the 50 is a good look. Getting some higher highs in your RSI, I think that's a good look for sure. It doesn't mean that you have to start now, and don't be discouraged at all if you pull back, right? You could pull back to $1.27. You could pull back even lower. In fact, if you pull back to $1.27, I think that's totally fine. You don't have to, but if you do, it's okay, okay? But yeah, I have no problem calling for $1.60 to $1.72 by the end of this week. Absolutely, no problem with that at all. In fact, I think that makes a lot of sense, because what you do probably is you move up here by the end of the week, consolidate a little bit maybe, and then pump, and then what you have is this inverse head and shoulders pattern overall, and I can change the color on that so it stands out a little bit more, right? You can see what I'm going over: price action, projected price action, inverse head and shoulders. I don't know, it would kind of make sense in that aspect. Time will tell. If it were to be an inverse head and shoulders, that would call for a drop next week, which I don't see happening. Or maybe it doesn't call for a drop next week. Maybe it just consolidates next week, and then the following week it drops. I don't know. To open up February, I mean, that could happen. Either way, right? Whether you stop here, and if you do stop at the golden ratio, the 618, and I want to get rid of that. If you stop here, you likely do pull down to the 0.5 or the 382. That's the given targets after stopping at the 61869. And if you were to do that, it looks, I don't have the inverse head and shoulder, but a move down to the 382 would be very well with the right shoulder for compared to this left shoulder here, okay? And then a move up to the 61869, again, very, very good with the highs here on this shoulder. So it would make a lot of sense in that aspect. But if you just move up, if you just move like up to your 786, 886 area, then I suppose that does diminish the idea that we would have this inverse head and shoulders pattern. But even if we do, right, even if we move up and then we consolidate and then we move up later, or we just move up, we're still moving up. Overall, I very much believe Aerodrome is going to move up. So by the end of the week, $1.60, $1.72, that's my minimum expectation. Maybe the maximum expectation could be around $1.90 to be fair. Anything higher than $1.75 would be encouraged, just to say the least. But I think $1.60 to $1.62 is where you're going to go. Hold on. Okay, so now let's go for the end of the month. Where are we going to be by the end of January? You know, we've got how much time left? About 2 weeks. 2 weeks left. We look at this on a high to low here. End of Jan, which is going to be here. Again, I don't know where. And this is crypto, man. This is a very violently bullish crypto. You never know when the day could be that you're just all the way up at 386, right? And I do think inevitably you're going to go to these prices, right? And we're going to get to that in a second as well. But I think by the end of January, around $1.90 to $2.40 would be my guess. Probably closer, if I had to guess, probably closer to $2, probably, by the end of January. And then going into February, looking to exceed higher and go somewhere in this area. So we've got the end of the week targets, $1.60, $1.75. We've got the end of month targets, probably somewhere around $2, not just below or just above there. And of course, again, you never know when this thing could just get explosive, eruptive right now. Like end of month targets might be here right now, but in 2 days' time, who knows? We might be above those prices already. So you never know. This is crypto. Things can get out of hand. If I'm wrong, I would assume I'm only wrong in the sense that it moved up more, not moved down more. The average expected move for each altcoin, that is about the average expected move right there. It would be at about $3.86. I could see you stopping there, $3.86, but you dropped more than the average altcoin too, so maybe you have more to go. Maybe you go up to about $4.38. Maybe you go as high as $5. That'd be my guess by the end of this move for February. The minimum target, and I don't think you'll be at $7.15. Okay, but I do think you'll be at $3.86 to $5, somewhere in that range by the end of February. And I like the idea that you probably are above $4, but not above $5. So that's a good move. That would imply that Aerodrome actually sees an above average move, and that's fair because it had an above average drop. So I think that that's fair, and it's a very bullish crypto. Cryptos like this, when they're bullish, and I swear, man, everybody and their mother, man, I was getting emails. No, I'm just kidding. A lot of people were talking about it back here though, and throughout here, but nobody's been talking about it lately, right? Nobody's been talking about it lately, and I feel like this kind of stuff, it discourages people, it shakes people out, it bores people. You see other coins pumping or not dropping as much, you think you're in the wrong coin, so you switch and you get into something else, probably something that's doing this while your coin's being boring, so you buy the high and you sell the low, and then the coin that you bought the high, it starts to consolidate, or it continues to move up at a decent pace even, but then the coin you sell moves up at an even faster pace. Right? That's just how it happens. So I think this thing is about to rip. I really do. And I would expect an above average move, again, based on the fact that your minimum target is about at like the upper ends of what I'm expecting the average altcoin to do over the coming month and a half, which is, I think the average altcoin, just so you know, and this is derived from another video. I'm sorry I keep clearing my throat, guys, but I have asthma. It's just part of it. It's annoying. I hate that I talk for a living, and I have that, but it's just part of it, I guess. On that note, 181% is like the maximum average range that I've given for the average altcoin by the end of this next move. It's probably even dropped recently because everything's moved up recently. So basically all I'm saying is your minimum target would be there. I'm very much under the impression AERO probably sees an above average move in comparison to the rest of the market. Does that make sense by the end of February? Now, let's talk about end of cycle stuff and be done with this video. I don't know about you guys, but I have some stuff that I want to do off camera. It sounds worse the more that I talk about it. It's not bad stuff. I just want to sleep. $1 billion is the market cap right now. I feel like the more I tried to hint or explain at what I was going to do, it just sounded worse. So I just had to come clean with it. We're at $1.35 right now. You're a brand new token. So here's the deal. It's not impossible, but very, very unlikely that any coin sees $100 billion or more in the first cycle. We've seen a couple coins do that, Ethereum, XRP. Not many coins do it though. Not even, I don't think even Bitcoin did it. Maybe Bitcoin did, but it doesn't happen often is all I'm trying to say. It can happen. We've seen it before. It'll probably happen again at some point, especially with the dollar weakening and a $100 billion valuation not being worth as much as it once was. But no, I don't think that this will see a $100 billion valuation. And that's good because now we at least have a ceiling to kind of base this off of, right? So I would think the average coin that does well, that's like a prominent coin, it's a brand new coin, it makes its way up to the top 200, top 100, you could see anything from a $20 billion market cap to an $80 billion market cap. And of course you could see higher. Some coins like Shiba Inu went to 80s of billions, like even I think the 90s of billions last cycle. It can happen. But likely you probably stay between, I would think, $80 to $20 billion. So the fact that you're at 1 billion makes it perfect. Essentially a 20 to an 80x is your possibility. 20 to an 80x. So a 20x from here, from 135, I mean, I don't know, what would that be? That would be 26, 27. It'd be 27 bucks, is that right? $27. And then an 80x from here would be over $100. Maybe you do, man. I'm just saying it because I like the idea of going to that psychological level of 100. Here's my thoughts. If you can hit $90, I think you will break above $100, or at least hit $100. And that doesn't help too much, but that's at least, you know, if you hit 90, you're at least quote unquote guaranteed another 10%, or at least something close to that, right? If you don't hit 100, you'd get very close to it, but hitting 90 probably likely does, because the reason for that, there's a psychological game here, right? And I forget what it's called. I heard somebody call it this one time. I don't know if you guys watch Mitch Ray. I watched his channel like 3 years ago, man. No. It's probably like 5 years ago, whenever he said this. But he was talking about the rules of 9s and 10s. And I heard it and I thought it was BS, but I swear I've applied it to every single analysis I've ever done since I've heard of this, and I've actually found it to be true. It's one of these like little rule of thumbs, like tricks that you just don't hear about, but it's just, I don't know, he probably heard it from his dad, who heard it from somebody, right? Like this is like stuff that's passed down, but the 9s and the 10s, essentially it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy psychologically, and it makes sense, right? If you get to $90, you're likely going to get to $100 because it's just that number. You're right there. And if you don't get to $100, you'll get very near it, and that might be the psychological resistance. But here's the kicker. Most, if not all, in my experience, all coins or stocks or any kind of thing that goes to its 9s, it will eventually go to its 10s. Does that make sense? Like if something is to see a $9 price, it's a matter of time, maybe days, maybe years, but inevitable that it will see $10. If it goes to $90, it's inevitable it'll see $100, and $900 inevitable without, you know what I mean? So and that doesn't mean, you know, like let's say Bitcoin, for all intents and purposes, we'll get back to the main meat and potatoes of this video, I promise you in a second. We're almost done with the news. But if Bitcoin went to $900 billion by the end of the cycle, that doesn't mean it has to see, or not 900 billion, I'm sorry, 900,000. I was thinking in market cap terms. It's already above that anyways. But if it went to 900,000 in price this cycle, that doesn't mean it has to go to a million by the end of the cycle. It just means likely it will go to a million at some point in its life, and that could be 4 years from that date, right? It doesn't have to be immediate, but it does mean you have a date with destiny. So anytime you see a coin or a stock or anything that hits its nines and it didn't hit the 10 and then it pulled all the way back to like $1 or $2 and you buy that, like you have a good chance of actually seeing that 10 come to fruition, whether it's in a day, a year, who knows, right? But inevitably, it's just some kind of weird thing. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, essentially. But I got off on a whole tangent there. All I was trying to talk about is Aerodrome at an 80x would be very close, just above $100 in price. And that might imply, instead of seeing an $80 billion market cap, maybe see like a 70-something billion dollar market cap, which would take you closer to 100. I could just see that happening. I like that because of the self-fulfilling prophecy and the fact that if this is a prominent coin and it gains enough popularity and it is something that makes a stand for itself this cycle, it could absolutely see an $80 billion market cap. That's attainable. We've seen it happen. Shiba Inu did it last cycle, and all it did was announce itself as the Dogecoin killer. Surely Aerodrome is capable of this, especially if it catches on and if it sees some use case or popularity. But if it doesn't, even if it doesn't, likely with the setup that you have now, I would expect nothing less than a 20x, right? Which a 20x would put you again at $27 from here. So I think I've said everything I need to say. $27 to $100 by the end of the cycle is what I'm thinking, okay? I'm thinking by the end of February, probably something closer to, what was it? Was it like, no, it wasn't that. It was something like $3 to $4, wasn't it? Let's see, hold on. See high to low here. Yeah, it was like $3.86 to $5. That's so $4 to $5 is what I was thinking, right? By the end of February, by the end of the cycle, we're thinking $27 to $100, maybe even just above $100. End of February, we're thinking $4 to $5. End of January, we're thinking about $2, maybe $2.40. End of this week, we're thinking $1.60 to $1.75. End of today, I don't know, probably around this price. Hit the like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want more content like this. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.